Chapter 6: Ups and Downs. After 3 years in the United States, Frida and Diego moved back to the house that Diego had built for them in Mexico. As planned, Frida lived in one side of the house, which was painted blue just like the blue house, and Diego lived in the other. They had been arguing more and more while they were in the United States. Living in separate wings of the house made life and work easier for both of them. Arguing with Diego upset Frida, but she put her emotion and energy into her paintings. It was during these difficult times that Frida sometimes painted her best and most interesting pictures. While they were in the United States, Diego had been getting most of the attention. However, Frida felt it was now her turn to show the world that she was also a talented artist. Frida did some of her paintings on metal or wood rather than on canvas. Painting on metal or wood was popular in Mexican folk art. Choosing to follow this style of painting was a way of Frida to express the importance of her culture and country in her artwork. During this time, Frida had to have even more operations. She also found out that she would never be able to have a baby. Frida wanted to have children, but her injuries from the accident meant she would never be able to. This sad news was one more thing that Frida had to bear. Life just seemed so unfair. Some of the things that Frida painted are difficult to understand and quite hard to look at. But she always told the story of her own life in her paintings, and she was not afraid to express her feelings through her art. Frida often included images of Mexican history and filled them with symbols from Mexican art and culture. She wanted to remind people of her pride in her country. At one point, Frida and Diego had such a big argument that Frida moved out of the house in San Angel. She cut off all her long, beautiful hair and stopped wearing the traditional Mexican clothes she had always worn. It was the exact opposite of how Frida really was, and it showed how upset she was by what had happened between her and Diego. Even though Frida's personal life was difficult, she was becoming more successful as an artist. People were beginning to pay more attention to her paintings. They were fascinated by the way she showed her feelings and her thoughts in her pictures. She was becoming as famous as her husband. Frida did a painting in 1937 called Memory or the Heart. In it, Frida appears without her hands to show that she is helpless. She seems to float in the air. A large heart lies on the ground. There is a hole where her heart should be, and a sword had been pushed through the hole. Frida used parts of her body to symbolize how heartbroken and powerless she was to change things between herself and Diego. In some ways, putting these images into her art helped Frida feel better about the things she could not control. Later, in 1937, Frida's paintings were included in a group exhibit at the National Autonomous University of Mexico. Julian Levy, the owner of a gallery in New York City, was at the exhibit. He thought Frida's paintings were fascinating. When he got back to New York, he wrote to Frida. He asked her if she would show her paintings at his gallery. It was just the break that Frida had been waiting for. Frida replied yes and sent photos of some of her other paintings. Mr. Levy asked Frida if she could send 30 paintings for the exhibition. So Frida got to work and started painting more than ever.